everybody, Jewel back with another awesome astrology video talking about birth sun in the 7th house, what that's like when somebody has this going on in the birth chart, some of their characteristics and traits. And I have really noisy ducks and chickens. They are not usually this noisy, but they're going to be noisy right now when I'm making a video. So that's what all that is going on behind me. They're hatching ducklings right now, so there's a lot of action in the coop. So sun in the 7th house. The sun is our ego. You know, it represents our goals, a lot of our vitality, our expression, the father, government, power, what we're after. You know, our self-esteem and our ego and our drive are very much about the sun and how we want to show up. It's a big slice of our personality, and is very much about our ego. So the 7th house is nothing like the sun. The sun is really, you know, very much about the self. And the 7th house is about others, about anything but the self. The 1st house is, you know, the house of self, originally ruled by Aries, has a bit of a selfish flavor. And then we have the 7th house ruled by, originally, Libra, has a very Venus, you know, Libran flavor. So these two, you know, the sun, and you know, originally, you know, rules, you know, Leo, and you know, is very much, you know, about, you know, creativity and you know, self-expression. You know, the sun is very much about self. So when we have, you know, the 7th house of others, which is completely opposite, you know, the wheel from the house of the self, and then we have the sun coming into the house that is about others. Generally, we see some self-esteem and ego issues when we have the sun placed in this house. Now, it's really important to see how the sun is aspected, and if the moon is here, and whatever else is going on, because the sun is considered, you know, it's losing its energy, its strength when it's, you know, coming through the 7th. So it's putting, you know, a planet, you know, in an astrology we consider the sun a planet, putting a planet that's very much not about the 7th house into the 7th house. So when the ego comes into the 7th house of others, it's kind of an uncomfortable place for the sun to be. It is unnatural for the sun to be, you know, other focused. So there's a lot of learning that goes along with having your sun in this placement when it comes to learning to use the sun in the 7th house in a positive way. So, you know, they're typically very social, very much about establishing relationships, partnerships of all kinds, because this is also the house of business partnerships and open enemies, you know, of the public. So they tend to be more extroverted, but more quietly so, and you have to look at everything because, you know, astrology is complex. I'm talking about one thing. I'm not talking about any other thing other than the sun itself in the 7th house. I'm not talking about any aspects to the sun. I'm not talking about the sun in a certain constellation. None of that stuff. I'm not talking about details. I teach you one thing at a time in these videos, and, you know, after we've done a certain amount of learning, we can put all those things together and see the whole picture. So we're only talking about one thing in this video, only sun in the 7th house. So associations, identity is very much formed through others, through partnerships. You know, the sun is very much about our ego and our identity, what we see ourselves as, what what we want to show up in the world as. So, that's very much other-centered. And they learn about themselves through other people. So it's very important for them to have relationships and to typically have lots of relationships. So they have people to play off of, people to learn from. They see themselves mirrored through others, and this is very much how they learn about what they're about and what their own identity is. There's a lot of identity searching when we have the sun in the 7th house. This is, the personal identity in the house of other people. So it tends to be, it's a more complex position for the sun to be. So, their ego tends to be very dependent on partnerships, especially intimate partnerships. Whether they feel, how they measure their ego, how they feel about themselves, their worth, their self-worth is very much measured by what the partner is, what the partner can bring them, how the partner is seen, who the partner, how the partner makes them feel. So, and how the partner shows up socially is really important, because people with their sun in 7th house identify with the partner. They don't want to identify with something that is not what they perceive as them. So, although they're learning from the partner and are kind of a more porous personality, they think they know who they are. And so they can become controlling within relationships. People with the sun in the 7th house do not want to be alone. And they, because their identity is so tied to the partner, there's a real fear of, the partner, digressing from, the shared goals, or the partner, going a different way, or being left, being abandoned for somebody in the sun in the 7th house. Very, very serious stuff. So, not all, but it is very common for people with their sun here to become very manipulative. And this is in an effort to keep people close to them. It's out of fear. So they can become very controlling towards others, especially in their intimate partnerships. And this can be very under the table, especially for women with sun in the 7th house. And it's, very much about subtle control. They use a lot of guilt. And guilt is very much about control. If somebody is trying to make you feel guilty, it is because they are trying to control you. So it's very important for people with their sun in the 7th house to become their own self, to learn what their own identity is. And they do that through spending time alone. And that's really hard for these people. There's a high, instance of codependency within relationships here with the sun in this placement. So it is really important that they actually do spend time alone. And that is hard, but they need to do it. Because when they do establish their own identity outside of the partnership, it really paves the way for them to be able to develop a partnership, a love relationship that is based on equality, equanimity, very much about being a team, balance. Balance is really important. There's a big lack of balance between the identity and the partner. When they can balance that and not look to the partner to do that for them, then they can forge some relationships where these people are awesome in relationships. I mean, these people, they are gift givers, they're romantic, they are chivalrous, they are usually very feminine. The females love lingerie too. Sun in the 7th house, love lingerie. They're way into it. They have a heart of gold, these people. They can really show up in relationships in an awesome, awesome way. But it's typically after they learn that they need to do some work on their own, and if they choose to do that, because a lot of them don't, they will choose to battle that ego versus partnership their whole life. And a lot of people with their sun in the 7th house, they have cyclical bad relationships, and they don't understand why. And it is because they're looking for the other to fulfill them and to fulfill their identity. They've got to do that on their own. So, typically very artistic, these people. Love luxuries. They love the good life. And very often are very desirous of a sugar daddy or a sugar mama when we have the sun in the 7th house. They are Libras too. Very much about wanting a partner to kind of swoop in and save the day, and somebody that they can lean on. And the men with their sun in the 7th, they can have this really irritating characteristic of testing their women. Testing, seeing if their women are strong enough for them to give up the reins and give up control and have their women take over and lead the relationship. They want to know, because sun in the 7th house wants to follow, but they want to do that if they're sure that you're strong enough to lead. So there's this testing, and that's where a lot of the dominance and the manipulation can come from. And if you, the partner of the person with the sun in the 7th house, do not give in to that and call that and make it, known that you are going to live your own life regardless of what they do or don't do, they love that. They want to attach to that. They see that as what they are missing. So if you are one of those people that can live with them or live without them, then people with sun in their 7th house, they're going to hit on you. They want you. They see you as being strong enough to handle them. So I hope you enjoyed this analysis of sun in the 7th house in the birth chart. I'll be back with more super cool videos super soon. Be sure to check out my business partner, Seth Roback. I'll put a link to his YouTube channel as well. He has lots of astrology videos, synastry, all kinds of generational astrology stuff as well. Really super cool stuff. And I'll be back very, very soon with more awesome astrology. Bye-bye.